Good evening, Top fans. Bill from Top Fan Rivalry once again here with another segment of Before the Bigs. Tonight I brought in a good friend of mine, and dare I say it, I hate to admit this, but darn near close to a 30-year friend. I can't believe we're that old. Dan Keller, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm younger than you are.
Not by much, not by much. Although your hairline looks better than mine does. I mean, what can you do, right?
You spend too many hours in the office, need to get out in the field more.
Hey, something like that, right? So I got to tell you, I've known Dan forever. We played baseball growing up together. Dan was much better than I was at it. I was maybe the better looking side of the half, but he was the better athlete, I guess. But I brought Dan on tonight because Dan has worked for years since we graduated high school and into college. He's worked for years with kids and preparing young minds and preparing athletes both on and off the field and how to get ready for that next level. And I mentioned to Dan that we're doing a Before the Big segment, and he was gracious enough to spend 15, 20 minutes with our top fans. So Dan, I appreciate you being on tonight.
Absolutely. I'm excited to join the site, the movement, the community. Happy to share anything I've learned banging my head against this wall for, I'd say 22 years I'm at. By the way, I was at a practice today with my 8-year-old Monsters team and found a ball in a bucket, buried in a bucket from one of the first years I coached high school baseball. And it was dated 2002. So I showed these kids, they're like, is any of these signatures worth anything? I go, I don't think so, guys. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, 2002, coaching high school baseball.
Are we that old?
That's what I said. That's exactly what went through my mind. I went, ouch.
Yeah.
All right. So anyways, this is an area I can realize some value.
So Dan, we've had Dave Schaefer on. He's talked a little bit about from a parent's perspective. You've been in the dugout. You actually run your own site, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what's the site called?
Dugout Captain.
Dugout Captain. Okay. So what have you learned over the years? What wisdom that can you give out to parents that are raising young kids? What's some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned over the last couple of years?
Great question, broad question, sweeping question. Thank you for the
very broad to start out
super
with.
General intro. I'll tell you the first thing that popped in my mind, and I have yet to do anything on this, but I was on a run on Saturday and I was listening to people wiser than me, as I try to do as much as possible. And it was a collaboration of two super, super wise people, Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
And Oprah said that she had done an exercise where she wrote her 18-year-old self a letter. So she physically penned a letter to herself. And it stuck. I stopped my run and actually flipped my phone around, recorded myself so I could catch my thoughts, right? And then I pushed run again and I went on my run. And this is like where it comes back to like, what would be the suggestions? Like we could talk about hands inside the ball and arm slot and base running technique and fielding triangle for a little dude. But the bottom line that she said to her 18-year-old self was relax. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Right. And immediately I thought to myself, I had just had a game on Saturday with the same said 8-year-old Monsters, the Angels of Fountain Valley Pinto League. And I said to myself, gosh, right, we should all ask ourselves that question as baseball parents. What would you tell yourself, your 18-year-old self, your 16-year-old self, your 14-year-old self? What kind of grace and respect and patience would you have with yourself, knowing just how hard life is? And now, how are we projecting that to the 8-year-olds? And I stopped in my tracks, like I said, and I went, oh my gosh, right? Like what a perspective bomb on my head, having just lit up an 8-year-old for not paying attention on second base when there was a pass ball. And I'm going, oh, wow, perspective is a powerful thing, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing I would say to us, not other parents, but I'm literally going through it right now is, man, it is hard. and we're not that important. Our kids, I mean, obviously are super important to us, but this is not that important. Number one, it's not that important. Even if they're good, it's not that important. And if you think that they're good and they're going to be better, then relax. It's going to be fine, right? The cream is going to rise to the top. You're going to do what is necessary. So take a deep breath and enjoy the ride. And then responsibly, we can dive into some conversations like this and kind of learn best practices. But that's the first thing that popped in my mind, Bill, was Oprah saying, relax.
Wow.
Right.
That, it's funny that you say that, because as you were saying that, I was just thinking to myself, what would I tell my 18-year-old self? And relax would be because you and I both played for the same coach, and he was intense at times, right?
Relax.
And, he was the opposite of relax at some points.
Totally.
But just relax. That's a good thing. So what have you gained from that perspective, or how have you used that perspective in the last 24, 48 hours since you've learned it?
Patience. I'd say this much. Even this year is probably the slowest pace I've gone at. I've been gnarly, intense baseball guy, fundamentals, efficiency, which those principles are through and through my coaching philosophy, right? You play the game hard. We go hard as players and coaches at practice with positivity and a cool environment and fun environment, but it's very structured and very, utilizing every minute, no standing around. But my pace has slowed a little bit more, right? I'm trying to be more patient. But the other thing I would say, and I wrote this down, I'm a writer, so I always take notes and stuff. But the other thing that pops to my mind that I would marry almost like unfairly with that relax, let it go is aggressive,
Mhm.
right? And probably you were thinking the same thing because we did play for the same coach, and I'm having the same thoughts, right, in my own career. If I could play free and be much more aggressive, right? Not afraid to fail, let it rip. So at the youngest age, from the first practice, and again, I'm working with 8-year-olds now. I'm a college pitching coach, but I'm working with 8-year-olds. We're going to swing hard. We're going to throw hard. We're going to run hard. We're going to let it rip. So we gave a game ball on Saturday to a kid that punched out twice.
Wow.
We gave him the game ball because he took 6 swings out of his shoes. And I absolutely believe if we can maintain that aggression, the kid's athletic enough that it was like strategically a good choice by us. He's going to figure it out. So if we don't allow him to get down because he punched out twice, if we make sure we're not celebrating AYS so everybody gets a trophy style, but on one hand, we are celebrating the fact that the effort was extreme. The swings were big and they were aggressive. And we don't want to put forth any sense of failure, with striking out. So that aggressive freedom to play, that's what I would tell myself is right. With respect, like ask her out, go ask out the cutest girl to dance, go fearlessly throw a 3-2 curveball. It's the same thing in life. Walk into the job interview like I got nothing to lose, and be respectful and honor the work and do the right things and answer the questions professionally. But when we play free and we play aggressive, we play our best. And so I want to build a culture where those two happen, that my kids are free and they're super aggressive.
Yeah.
And so, the last thing I'll riff on right now, because you're a Fountain Valley guy, we have just one of my favorite kids in the world, just trying to get him to get out of his own way and just relax. Just put the music on, the headphones on, and go, because we know if he gets out of his way, he's not going to go lackadaisical into competition. He's going to unleash into competition. And so just, Saturday, a couple of days ago, for anybody watching this, it was 6 shutout innings against the number 1 team, 8 punch outs, just like an extremely positive performance. And that's the type of fulfillment that I want the kids to feel. Results be darned, that look, I let it rip. I know I'm going to have, dinner with the family or my buddies no matter what. So I've got a fearless aggression and I can relax.
So you bring up some great points, and one of the things, and it's funny that you mentioned get out of your own way, because I manage a group of people at my office, and And one of them, one of them, I keep saying the same thing. You are going to be so good in this industry the second that you get out of your own way. So that being said, the game was different than when you and I played, right? I mean, we could get yelled at and we didn't get a participation trophy. So with that relaxing, but the aggressiveness, how do you teach kids that today's game, baseball is a game of failure, first of all. You're gonna make it the Hall of Fame if you get 3 hits out of every 10 at-bats consistently, right? So how do you teach them that it's a game of failure, but also teach them the mental toughness that it's okay to be aggressive and it's okay to fail? Because we don't teach that these days with social media. Everybody has to be perfect. So how do you teach them?
Man, if you got an answer for that question, we'd be rich.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah, I mean, as much as, let's take it maybe to a little bit, high school into college baseball, but I don't think yeah, it's not a classroom lesson, right? It's much more long term. It's a culture and a philosophy and an environment that is created, you know. So that's where, again, I think you can relax as a parent. Like, you got some time, right? Like, you got some time. And if you've screwed up thus far, your first kid went through, and I got so many parents I've worked with, so many parents I've worked with, and thank God that I've been able to be on the road with them as well, the experience journey. But that now are coming through with their second or their third kid through athletics, and they're able to learn the lessons of how they screwed up the first, in their own words, how they screwed up the first time around. Kind of losing my train of thought a little bit, but I think that well, what do they do differently? They probably much more proactively chill themselves out. Maybe get more specific with, like, what is, I don't know, pen and paper again. What is the culture and the environment I want to create for my kid as a parent? Some of the things that popped to mind right now, Billy, like, I do a lot of coaching clinics.
Mhm.
So you're in South County, I'd come down to the South County Little League on a Saturday for a couple hours, 2.5 hours. And I love, talk about like getting out of your own way. I love to lose myself to that conversation. That's my number one thing, is I want to get on the field with 50 to 100 coaches, and then I want to lose myself for a couple hours, right? And just have this connection with everybody. But how do you take 15, 30 quiet minutes and write down some of, maybe write down some thoughts that these are important things to me, I want to create in the culture and the environment and the relationship with my kid. I need to do this. Let me make notes of myself. And then what are some objective rules that might hold me accountable to that? If I'm in the dugout with the kid, this is a different life. If I'm driving home with the kid, this is a different role. And some of the things in the coaching clinics that I've stolen are, hey, as soon as the trunk closes, metaphorically, I put my gear in the trunk and I close that thing, I'm done being coach.
Yeah.
So, like, you better leave that trunk open and get out whatever you need to get out. And when you shut that trunk, man, the hat goes in the trunk. You sit down, you're dad, right?
Yeah.
If he brings something up and he wants to talk, then of course you're going to talk. You're his father.
Mhm.
But I catch myself all the time on the drive home, like, man, I want to chop this up, son. My 6-year-old son, who now is 8, like, let's chop up how the first and third execution went, in the fourth inning when we really could have got that extra run. And he's like, yeah, like, can we get a burger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, can we
So,
just get a Slurpee? What happened to a Slurpee, Dad?
yeah, but there are a bunch of cool, like, accountability partners that are similar to that might hold you accountable and help you create what is that environment that is going to, number one, train your kid to be the next Mookie Betts or Mike Trout. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice the training that we're going to do, but I just got to mask it, hide it, make it fun, slow my roll, and then, honor whatever I put to paper that says, this is how I want to be as a baseball mom or a baseball dad or a sports mom or a sports dad. I don't know. Sorry for
Yeah.
rambling.
So that leads me to my next question then. As a parent, how can, and I'm going to give you an example here. As a parent, how can you recognize this is advice to parents. How can you recognize that the coach is trying to do his best job? What advice would you give? Now, let me give you an example. I coached high school baseball a couple of years ago, and we were playing one of our rival schools, and the score was tied. We were in the sixth inning. We're at home. Ground ball to the shortstop, runner on second. Instead of moving his feet like he's supposed to and getting in front of it, he tried to do one of these backhand jobs. Well, it went under his glove. Run scored. That actually ended up being the winning run. After the run scored, when we're still in the inning, I walked down to the end of the dugout. He was playing short. I walked down to the end by the third base, and I looked at the kid and I said, "You owe me a run." That's all I said to him. That night, I get a phone call from his dad telling me how inappropriate that was. His kid feels bad, yada, yada, yada. What I was trying to teach the kid was a little bit of mental toughness. You made a mistake, but get that fire in your belly to go back out and get it back, right? You made a mistake, but then when you come up to the plate, let's go get it back, right? And so how would you counsel parents to understand that maybe the coaches, because I'm sure you bump into this all the time, right? You got the helicopter parent or the parent that says, "Oh, coach, you're telling me my kid wrong," or you're whatever. So how do you handle that, or what advice would you give to parents?
Holy smokes.
Hit your Achilles heel, didn't I?
Yeah, you can edit this pause. What would I mean? How would I help the parent? I think the honest truth that I would say is, yeah, for 20 years, the kids that are playing, the coach is a genius, and the kids that aren't playing, the coach is a terrible coach. That's the bottom line. I mean, the older I get, the more blunt I am. If your kid wants to play more, he should be better at baseball.
Mhm.
So that's the honest truth. So obviously there are situations where you get the wrong guy in a coaching position who's abusing power. But I like to believe that the world is a good place, and most of these coaches are altruistically in there for the right reasons. They're trying to help kids. They're doing their best. They're human, and there are certainly going to be biases. But I think the blinders on parents being objective are real. We've had this talk recently, and I'm actually, kind of weird way excited to the challenge of myself to see if I become a bit of that aggressive coach example of like the 8-year-old stealing second, stealing third every time they get on base because no one can play catch. Right. And so it's like, all right, are you going to fall victim to that when the other coach does that? Like, that's what we're going through right now. But what would I tell the parents? I mean, yeah, like, if you're talking varsity high school baseball, like you were coaching, you got to put your big boy pants on. It's not AYSO everybody plays. And if your kid was hitting, he would play more. Right? That's the bottom line. If the arm was good and the mental toughness was strong, they would be on the mound. If they're not pitching, I think the first thing to do is look in the mirror and go, why are they not playing? Right? Where is it that they're not, because objectively there is an answer there. And then the other thing would be, then work with your athlete to communicate with the coach, to build a relationship and be able to have a conversation, to step up to the plate and ask for feedback, right? Like every coach wants their player to have a desire, period. We want to question about anything. We love the fact that they're engaged and they want that they're not turning around and griping behind their back to another kid. Creating a dysfunctional culture when we're working so hard to create this really cool, positive, free, aggressive environment, that's killed by the athlete that thinks he's getting jobbed and hosed and wants to go behind the back and start, talking behind people's backs. So I think I would, as an adult, I would say, look, I'm going to honor and respect the guy that's putting 30 hours a week in for virtually nothing with my athlete. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, tell my kid to man up and go talk to the coach, find out what the explanation is. And if we come back to the table and you keep feeding me stories that don't line up, then at some point, maybe I'd have to find out a way to communicate. And if there's, determine if there really is something that's not appropriate going on.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but prior to where it gets kind of political, when we're talking last years of high school into college, where you're going to extend, possibly make this a career type thing. There's a lot of father-son opportunity there. And, if the kid wants to play more, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing wrong with a kid saying, "Hey, Dad, can you take me to batting cages? Hey, Dad, can we go play catch? Hey, Dad, I want to play catcher more. Can you teach me blocking drills?" There's nothing wrong with that,
My
right?
gosh, great, right?
And there's actually a good father-son bond that makes America's favorite pastime so great, isn't it?
Amen.
I
Yeah,
mean,
amen. I think the opportunity is, yeah, again, the opportunity is, that's a great, great point. And you don't have to be the expert, right? There's a lot of resources out there, right? There's TopFanRivalry. You can always find, that's the dugout captain area. You can find content
mhm,
up the wazoo for anything you need. You can go down the local batting shop and you can find an instructor. It's an opportunity to sit down with a goal and a calendar and a young person and go, all right, let's do something. Because that's the skill that we're trying to teach the kids, right? Is the ability to calendar, to take a goal to the calendar, take the month to the week to the day to the schedule, and go, I'm going to kick booty today towards that goal. If I repeat that 38 times, I'm going to take my 60 time down 0.10. I'm going to take my velo up 1 mile an hour. I'm going to take my bat speed up X metric, right? And by setting that goal and going through the exercise of calendaring a goal and breaking it down to its pieces, taking the pieces to the calendar and having the daily discipline to hit that day, one day at a time, right? We can architect the plan and support that, but you put the kid through that experience, that's timeless, that's priceless. And lo and behold, they're going to become a better hitter, catcher, and maybe they make improvements and you show your coach you're working, and it does end up in, more playing time or whatnot. But yeah, what an opportunity, right? As you said, build and foster a relationship. Plus, what an opportunity to create a culture of fighting, of grinding, of realizing that life is difficult without sobbing or looking for a handout. Work, right?
yeah,
Build a culture where it's like, I'm going to set some goals. I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to be okay with life isn't fair. Right? I'm not going to be a hard. That's the thing. We have the chance as baseball parents and even as coaches, right, Bill? Like, we can create an environment where we're together. Like, this is what I like, is like, I want to take that kid who feels wronged and I want to tell him, you're not as good as you think, in a beautiful way, that I'm not disrespectful, and help him say, I would love it if you were better at blank. So let's go to work. And sure as heck, parents, if I have that type of a conversation, a college pitching coach, if I have that conversation with a kid, he mans up and comes and talks to me about wanting more opportunity, wanting this, wanting that. And then I am vested with that athlete. Like it or not, I am seeking opportunity because I feel guilty, right? That's a reality. So there is some value in going and saying, I'm going to step up to the plate and talk to my coach, build a relationship, make him care, let him know that you care. It's not going to hurt anything, right? You're only going to get a coach that has his eyes open and now says, look, the score is +7, -7, 7-0-0-7. Let's go get that dude and throw him on the bump. Let's go get this guy in at bat. Let's put him at first base. So, yeah.
yeah. It's, Dan, we could do this all night. I love what you're saying because I love your approach to it, and it's fostering a relationship within the individual and finding deep down what the individual needs. And you're unique in that sense. I mean, I've been around coaches that this person plays or this person plays because, and they don't foster that, what they see that this kid could become. It's just, this kid has always done this, so he's going to play. I know you're on some time constraints. Let me ask you one last question, and then I want to invite you back. Okay, so if we can agree to do this again another time, this would be great. But let me ask you this one question. And it's two parts. What if you could sit down with a kid that wants to take it as far as his physical body will let him, what's one piece of advice that you would give him to do? What's one piece of advice that you ask him to stay away from? And don't use our high school baseball coach where he says, break up with your girlfriend because, it's not good to have a girlfriend during the season. That's not what we're looking for. But what's the one thing that you would tell a kid that, hey, this you ought to do? Maybe this is something that you should stay away from. Go ahead.
Give me the category, kid. You're talking about a high school kid looking to advance, talented.
Let's say he's a pre-high school kid, but his dream is to go all the way. So he's, 12, 13, 14 years old. I'm giving you the good ones tonight. Next time I'll give you the softballs.
These are super broad too. One thing I would tell, let me take my notes real quick.
Good.
The things that pop to mind for me is how are you going to separate, right? So you're facing the uphill battle, which is so different nowadays and so competitive, and the kids are so stinking good. So, and you're trying to either make a high school team or compete and play and earn playing time at a high school team or extend your career. How are you going to separate yourself and differentiate yourself when everybody can throw, everybody can run, and everybody can hit? So, first of all, I would ask that question to the athlete, and I would love to hear and start that process of bringing some spotlight to the fact that this goes far beyond skill set. And so let's be honest and say, if you need to be the best runner, the best hitter, the best thrower, the best base runner, right? Defender, whatever it is in your position, it's undoubtable. You're going to have to work your rear end off in skill training to become the best player. But truly, why are the big leaguers, who earns a contract in the big league? When 9 out of 10 just get cycled through the big leagues, who are the guys that stick around? You're either a unicorn, which are the guys that are 6'6" and run like the wind and can hit 700-foot home runs, whether this is on or off, or you are the guy, and I go head, heart, and stones. Apologize. You are the guy that can separate with mental toughness, a love and desire for the game, and the willingness to do what it takes. And so that's immediately what I would focus on, is like, you're going to separate yourself with your attitude, your effort, and your mental toughness. And undoubtedly, as a coach, that is who we are recruiting. Because if you can't pitch, you can't play. You're going to hit your ceiling soon. And everybody hits their ceiling. You just hope it's in the big leagues. And if you hit your ceiling in the big leagues, then you're either going to be cycled through quickly and it's going to be over, or you will separate yourself and differentiate yourself with head, heart, and stones. So there's the one thing I would do is I'd read a book. I would study those that are more successful than us, and I would relax, be super aggressive, and toughen up. You're not a victim. No one, you're not that important. So set a great goal, put it on the calendar, and be a champion today, right? Do everything you need to do today towards that goal. And if you repeat that one day at a time, you're going to get as far as the big man upstairs says you were meant to go. And you're going to put your head on the pillow at the end of the day and be like, that was awesome, right? I enjoyed that ride. So we need to make sure as parents that we get out of the way ourselves. And while we, at the same time, have a plan to try and support that path, because all we want, right, is we want our kid to love something. We want them to gain as many and as much of those life lessons that we can support for them, because we can't create them. We don't get them. So what was the second half? What would I tell them not to do?
Yeah.
The first thing popping in my mind is the broken language wisdom of one of my best buddies who said, try less hard. Right? If you analyze that statement, like, how great is that? Try less hard. And I would somehow try, and the flip side of that mental toughness is like, Oftentimes with the kids, like that right-hander that just punched out 8 guys and beat the local rival high school on Saturday. Yeah, I've been telling him to shake his hips and do a dance on the mound for 10 years. Put the literal headphones on, take your shirt off and just just dance on the mound,
Just
right?
having fun.
And just try less hard because he's such a great kid. We know the effort will pour through, right? And when he takes himself so serious and he's so wound up so tight, the talent can't shine. It's like all we want to do is you be your best you. I don't know if you have the story, but I can remember trying to be the $1 million arm I was playing catch with, who I wasn't, and changing my arm action because this guy had a fastball that just whoosh, exploded out of his hand. But that wasn't me. My fastball didn't explode like that. And I kept trying to be like other people, right? So I would want to say, be yourself. If you want the negative talk, don't try and be someone you're not, right? And it kind of goes back to this culture of like, I said earlier, we're still going to train the next Mike Trout, the next Mookie Betts, right? And we still, as athletes, have to run, hit, throw. But like truly, as parent or athlete, we're trying to get out of our own way. And we're trying to have fun along the way and create an environment that brings out the best. And that freedom and that aggression is what translates. And you could speak to your team, you can't be irresponsible, but you need to play without fear. And that's when you get your best performance. You're fulfilled. And it's proven over the numbers and the years and the data that's the best players. They have an off switch where they're not worried about anything. They are just, playing.
Yeah.
And the best comes out.
And we watch guys on TV all the time that go out and they look horrible and they go 0 for 4, even 0 for 6 or 0 for 8 or whatever. But then they shake it off. And then the next thing you know, they hit 2 bombs in one game and they're right back at it. And baseball's a weird game like that. The nice part about it is every at bat, you get to hit the reset button. If you're on the hill, every batter, you get to hit the reset button. And you and I went to war.
I got a good reset button story for you.
Go for it.
To give you a little fun little aside.
Huh?
A spontaneous real world story of walking out to the mound. This was in Cape Cod League, coaching baseball in the Cape Cod League. So I was the pitching coach one summer for a team in Cape Cod Baseball League. So the best collegiate pitchers in the nation. I walked out on the mound. This was the exact same problem, except you got a literal $2.1 million arm the next draft year. So $1 million arm on the mound, just imploding on himself. And I walked out and I looked around and I said, actually, I didn't say anything. That was kind of the point. I went, what? And I put my finger right on his shoulder and I held it for 3 seconds. I pulled it off and I walked off the mound. And I hit the reset button, right? But these kids are so stinking young. Like half of them got it. And the other half were like, who is this lunatic? And what is he doing? And so by the time I got back to the dugout or the inning ended, like needless to say, that's all we do when we take mound trips is we're just trying to slow your breath down, get your heart rate to come down a couple notches, just get you to stop thinking. We might talk technique or situation or what are we going to throw to this guy? But ultimately it's like, remember what we talked about, like putting the music on, just chill out, relax. Let's see what happens. So these guys come running back in the dugout and everybody started, and it became this epic story of like, this killer guy walked out. What did he do? Just push, like hit the reset button. And so for the rest of the summer, and the rest of my coaching career, it's always, hey, just hit the reset button.
There you go.
And they might step behind the mound and go.
You trademark it, you'll make millions. The killer reset button.
That's it. You got to push the reset button.
Well, Dan, this has been phenomenal. And I can't wait to hear what parents have to say about this. And I'd like to have you back in a month or 6 weeks or so. And there's some more details. Dan and I have been in wars together. When we played at a high school, our high school was in the top 5 or in the top 10 in the state and in the top 100 in the country. It was very competitive baseball. It wasn't, there wasn't anything that wasn't competitive. And Dan and I can tell you stories of us making travel trips during spring breaks and stuff like that, and winning tournaments, coming through the losers bracket, winning a fight in a game in the same day. I mean, all kinds of fun stuff, right? And so, but I so appreciate, Dan, you have no idea how much I appreciate you being on. Some of the stuff that you said tonight struck a chord even in me as a very very beginner coach from years past, but just a lover of the game. And I'm so impressed with what you had to say, especially the relax portion of it. And for you top fans out there watching this, please hear what he had to say. Just relax just a little bit. Dan, I'm going to give you the last 15 seconds before we sign off. Go ahead. Anything you want to say?
Try less hard.
Try less hard.
Stop taking yourself so darn seriously,
Mhm.
right? And let's just have some fun in this game. So I think I would finish with, that what would you tell yourself? It's just such a powerful perspective. And then when you think about what you would tell yourself, and then you take it all the way down to your offspring, like, come on, just relax.
Yeah.
Love them.
Well, top fans, if you haven't subscribed to this, subscribe to it. Go to dugoutcaptain.com as well. Dan's got some great tips on there of things, and he's also got contact information. If you want to reach out to him, I would welcome that completely. He's a great guy, great coach, just a lover of the game. So Dan, I appreciate you being on, and we'll talk here very, very soon. For you top fans, have a good night.